roughly on time. So thank you for being here. If you're not here, then you're not hearing this. But if you could, then it would be helpful for you to know that you should probably both subscribe to the channel, which you might be, and ring the bell to get notifications, which you might get or you might not. That's sort of just the way that it works. But good morning, everyone. Love to see the dragons in the chat. Few stories to talk about today because the show that I'm going to be having in just a little bit with JR is so packed full of stuff that they could never fit. We're not even going to get into everything that we've already prepared for the show, let alone this stuff. But this is very important anyway. And the title of the stream is which is the bigger asshole, Mitch McConnell or Donald Trump. We have one little update to get to before we adjudicate that, although it looks like some people are already voting in the chat. But thank you to the 100 of you who are already here. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Maybe it helps other people know about the stream. Okay, so you might recall, if you were here for the pre-show yesterday, that we talked about the fact that because Donald Trump is saying that he won, and all of his base believes that he won, and they just want to hear people say that he won, and they certainly don't want to hear that he didn't win, it's providing this opportunity for a lot of Republicans with absolutely no values, no ethics, no spine, no anything, to just be demonstrative, the sort of vice signaling of coming out and saying, no, everything that Trump says is right, screw democracy, screw all of that. And one way that they were going to potentially do that was that once the Electoral College of Votes, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks, a couple of weeks after that, I believe in the very beginning of January, the Congress needs to actually certify it effectively. They need to vote to sort of confirm and agree with the Electoral College. That provides an opportunity for some people to make a big stink and pretend that there's fraud or that Donald Trump potentially won. And what's interesting is that yesterday on the show, we believe that the biggest tool in the halls of Congress, Matt Gaetz, who, as is being cataloged on Twitter right now, is looking more and more like Butthead every day, which is sort of weird. He might do something, complain, give a speech, try to filibuster, which of course doesn't work in the House, but some Republicans seem to think that it does because they don't know fundamentally anything about the government. But it turns out that it might not be him. It might happen, but it might not be him, or it might not be just him. And what's interesting about this is I can't say whether what I'm about to tell you it's like from a week ago, maybe, that the conversation had been beginning or something like that. But what I do know, and what I said yesterday on the show, is they are going to be scrambling all over each other to do this. Okay? They want to be on the top of the pile. And you get to the top of the pile by crawling on the other guys. So Matt Gaetz might go out there and say, I'm a giant asshole and I'll say whatever you want me to say, but someone else can say that too and be wilder and crazier about it than Matt Gaetz, and we might have that person. And that person is Representative Mo Brooks of Alabama, who has apparently been telling colleagues and allies that he plans to challenge the Electoral College votes when Congress officially certifies Joe Biden's victory. This is January 6th, so mark your calendars, it's going to be fun. As long as a Senate Republican joins him in the long shot effort, which, look, it's being called here, and this is a scoop by Politico, so limited credit to Politico. It's supposedly a long shot. The idea being, well, I mean, okay, it's one thing for a jagoff congressman to do this, but can you actually expect a senator to stand up and pretend that there's really any question about these results? Well, hypothetically, no, but it's 2020. Well, by then it'll be 2021, which will probably even be crazier than this year. Will some Republican do that? Why not? Honestly, if that Republican plans on running for president in 2024 and wants to be the person who gets Trump's fans, then yeah, why at that point wouldn't you do that? Honestly, but again, rule number one of politics. What does it matter? Nothing matters. What, is it going to hurt them? Is it going to hurt their credibility? Are they going to get a tough question from a reporter? Is it going to reflect poorly on them in the debates? No, none of these things are true. Just go and say crazy things. And so he'll probably get his senator. So what does he plan on doing? Well, he says, by the way, even if he doesn't get that senator, he's still going to do something, even though, and I think this is amazing, he acknowledged that that would be more of a symbolic protest. What the fuck are you talking about? It's symbolic either way, you jackass. It would be more solitary and symbolic, but it's symbolic either way. Symbolic of the fall of man, perhaps. But anyway, he says that he is going to talk about the fact that there's voter fraud. He's going to argue that the election was badly flawed and that most mail-in voting is unconstitutional. Politico apparently asked him to provide evidence of this, and no, he didn't do that. But he does say, in my judgment, if only lawful votes by eligible American citizens were cast, Donald Trump won the Electoral College by a significant margin, and Congress's certification should reflect that. This election was stolen by the socialists engaging in extraordinary voter fraud and election theft measures. And look, I say this mostly to you. I understand what the audience is generally like. Doesn't it feel like, at least, considering all that we've been through as a people, as a country, the fact that we have to deal every day with this sort of bullshit, couldn't it at least be, I'm not going to say accurate, because it's fundamentally founded in absolute bullcrap, but just say it was stolen by the centrists. Like, wouldn't that be something? At least an acknowledgement of who the crazy people they're against actually are. They're not the socialists, okay? Not a single one of them are socialists. Joe Biden wouldn't know socialism if it broke his foot for him. Like, we get attacked as socialists by the ones that the Republicans say are socialists, but couldn't be farther from that. But anyway, so he's going to stand up and he's going to waste our time on the 6th pretending. Ricoli forgot Coke. I don't know about what. Bobby Mann says, happy anniversary to you. I appreciate that, Bobby. Thank you. My wife and I had a great first anniversary. And so anyway, who is that senator going to be in the end? I don't know. So my guess would be Ted Cruz. Let me know if you agree with this, that he'd be the one that makes us think about it. And there's evidence for this and there's evidence against this. The evidence for this is that he desperately wants to be president. He has spent every day of the last 4 years thinking about it. And he, I believe, identifies this as a great opportunity for a little bit of political grift and to get those people on your side. So that's certainly something. And by the way, he likes demonstrative things like this. I mean, you might remember his Sam I Am, green eggs and ham thing. And so this wouldn't be that out of the blue for him. The thing is, Miss Lindsay, no, I don't think it's going to be Lindsay. Although maybe, I mean, during the Kavanaugh hearings, he certainly was doing some stuff like that. But so the downside, though, is that Ted Cruz is a little weenie. He is a coward, and while I believe that criticism doesn't mean anything anymore and doesn't matter, he might still be terrified and wetting his pants about the possibility of being criticized. And so you'll notice, like, it's not like he hasn't tweeted a little bit about voter fraud and everything, but has he really been out in front in those efforts as a Republican? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So I think that there's a chance because there's such an upside for him, but he is a scared little weenie with a possum beard. So I'm not sure. He would be my lead. I think he's most likely to be the one. But if you have some alternative, feel free to let me know. It's not going to be Mitch McConnell or whatever. Maybe it'll be Lindsey Graham. Although there's less upside for Lindsey Graham because he's not going to be running for president or anything like that. And he just won re-election. So does he really need it? I don't think there's as much of an upside for him. Josh Hawley, maybe. Deadfish says, will folks ever come to the realization that conservatism, regardless of political party, is the root cause of the vast majority of societal problems? Well, no, I don't think that most people will come to that conclusion. And I don't know about it being the root cause. I think there are other things, hypothetically, that lead to conservatism as we experience it in America today. But I get what you're saying. Hold on, there was one other. Elise says, my vote is Ron Johnson because my Wisconsin senator is crazy. Well, that is true. But it's interesting that you said that because my next story actually, and this is where we get into, well, I guess it's related to who's the bigger asshole. Yeah, no, it is. So this actually involves Ron Johnson. And it's a reason why I don't necessarily think that Ron Johnson will be the one that will do this big demonstrative thing. T-Bank says, John, you look a little tired. I say this with love because I look tired too. This is a super chat of sympathy. I hope you're getting enough rest. Thank you. I feel like I am. By the way, Spermax, thank you for that. I mean, I was up relatively late playing Dungeons & Dragons last night with my friends and my wife, fighting a grell in a mine up in Icewind Dale. But I think I got enough sleep. I don't know. I just drank a monster. I wake up and I immediately pound coffee, and then I drive to work to be here by myself, and I drink a monster. I live a very weird life, and I'm not necessarily sure that it's conducive to life. But anyway, let's talk about assholes, everybody. Okay, so who thinks that Trump is an asshole. Oh, me, and probably you, but not just us, also some Republicans. So this is an interesting little story from Mediaite about a guy named Mark Becker, former Brown County, Wisconsin supervisor, former chairman of the Brown County Republican Party. Now, that's not important. I love the chat coming in. That's not the important part of the story. But Mark Becker apparently had a phone call with Ron Johnson, Republican senator of Wisconsin. Now, this is back on November 14th, so about 2 weeks ago. So what was the nature of it? Well, it lasted about a half an hour, and in it, and remember, this is almost 2 weeks after the election, so we effectively knew everything we needed to know at this point. And honestly, what have we really learned about the election since then? Biden's lead has continued to grow, the Republicans continue to be insane, but nothing fundamentally has really changed. So I feel like the statements that were made in this conversation we can take as still pretty appropriate to what's going on right now. So in this conversation with Mark Becker, again, Republican, Johnson privately conceded that Biden won and explained why he's unwilling to say that openly. And so here's the quote from Becker. Senator Johnson knows that Joe Biden won a free and fair election. He is refusing to admit it publicly and stoking conspiracies that undermine our democracy solely because it would be political suicide to oppose Trump. So, if you're keeping an official log of national level weenies in politics, Ted Cruz just got a little bit of company because Ron Johnson is a massive weenie, and not in the good way. And by the way, he's sort of on record, I guess, with this guy in a phone call, but there are so many Republicans that obviously believe the same thing. And it doesn't mean that we can't classify the levels of weeniedom. I think that we can. The weenies who know that Biden won and will say privately that Biden won, but won't say it, that is one level of weenie. A worse level of weenie are the ones that know that Biden won and are making a big stink about election fraud on Twitter and stuff like that. So that is worse. That is a corrosive weenie, a toxic weenie. You don't want to get infected by that sort of weenie. This one's a little bit better, but also more cowardly, I guess. Because being such a fundamental liar that you'll take this knowledge you have of what the election was actually about and then pretend otherwise on social media, that's more anti-truth, but at least you're doing something. It's active. You're a protagonist in this story. Ron Johnson is a weenie side character. But he does say a few other interesting things. He says Donald Trump is an asshole, so that's interesting. And that's why I didn't want to, I'm biased, obviously. I live in a damage report bubble here by myself, and nobody else comes in this building and talks with me. I don't want to just say that Donald Trump is an asshole, although I have. This is a Republican senator saying that he's an asshole. And by the way, although Becker isn't saying that Trump is an asshole here, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to imagine that he thinks so. The fact that he's revealing this conversation, and by the way, revealing a ton of information from his private conversation with Ron Johnson. I have a feeling Ron Johnson probably is not a big fan of that. Although Johnson did tell Becker, even though Trump is an asshole, he was right on so many things. Again, weenie. Serious weenie. And think about it, Becker is being a bad friend. It's sort of a betrayal. But he's just like a county Republican chair. I think a former Republican county chair. Ron Johnson is a senator of the United States. Now hold on that thought, because there's a couple super chats I missed, and I hate to miss them. So I want to go back and make sure that okay, here we go. Ray Turner says, well, if you ever fancy Cthulhu over Skype or Zoom, give me a shot. I already do this for my own gaming group, so you and friends are welcome. That sounds awesome, actually. I would love to play Cthulhu at some point. Thank you for that. Sage Earp says, Republicans are now trying to act like they weren't complicit with the treason and BS they've done, hoping Biden and his centrist Dems will give them a pass. Well, the thing is that they probably will give them a pass, so it's a wise political strategy. But anyway, okay, so to return to the thought, Ron Johnson, toxic weenie, less toxic. Ted Cruz is more of a toxic weenie. He's just a weenie. He's not a possum-faced weenie, but he's a weenie. He's a scared little, talking shit on private phone conversations weenie. Is a senator of the United States. Now, we have grown accustomed to the fact that being a senator doesn't really mean absolutely anything, does it? You can be a complete moron, a complete fraud, completely corrupt, You just need to have a little bit of money or whatever, and you too can become a senator. But like, shouldn't it mean something? I mean, they're not the president, and you could argue that a governor maybe has more direct power, but it's still sort of a big deal, or shouldn't it? There's only 100. The whole world. We're the biggest, strongest, most powerful, richest country. And being a senator doesn't mean jack shit. It means that you're still a scared little bitch talking about your leader on private phone conversations, and even then saying, oh, but he was right on a lot of things. But he's an asshole. I'm really scared that he'll come after me on Twitter. That's a United States senator. That's something I should do. I'm just an asshole on YouTube. Senator. So honestly, the title of this video is a little bit wrong. Like, who's a bigger asshole? Okay, so look, is Ron Johnson as big of an asshole as Mitch McConnell or Donald Trump? No, probably not. But he's something else. And that something else almost might be worse. Like, Donald Trump is a fundamentally scared person. I think that it's one of the biggest flaws of the MAGA community is that they see all of his as him being strong, when we can see it accurately as the lashings out of a scared little animal. But he does it publicly. Ron Johnson does it in private. He does say one thing, though. I'll pull a Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson is right on some things. He called members of groups like the Lincoln Project and Republican Voters Against Trump money-grubbing pieces of shit. Well, even a broken senator is right twice a day, I guess. Okay, hold on a second. I missed a super chat. Chakuseki says, Toxic Weenie sounds like a movie script co-written by Troma Entertainment and Jenna Ellis about a micro penis that fell into radioactive waste. I watched movies like that growing up. Less penis, but more waste. So, look, even his senators believe that Trump is a piece of shit, but that doesn't really own Trump in this case, does it? It seems like it does. I mean, the idea that these people that supposedly support you are talking shit about you behind your back, that's generally, Adrian's free workouts, thank you for the super chat. That's generally the mark of you being a kind of pathetic figure. But they're also, Ron Johnson is scared, Ted Cruz is scared, Paul Ryan is scared, Matt Gaetz is scared. Like, Matt Gaetz has less reason because he's been so unfailingly loyal to Trump that he's probably going to be just fine. But he also knows that if he ever steps out of line, even an inch, he's going to be attacked. It's a pathetic way to live. It really is. And these are powerful people, theoretically. Lenin C says, I thought you were going to say you were going to run. Run, Dragon Senator. Well, thank you. I mean, I don't live in those states. And every day I put out more and more content that would make it impossible for me to be a successful politician. Also, it sucks. You ever, you wonder why so many politicians are complete assholes? It's because they drive away the people that aren't. It becomes intolerable dealing with these people. And then I'm speaking mostly about actual politics, but political media too. I have to keep doing this because we haven't yet fixed the situation. But do I want to be doing this? No. Everybody's an asshole. Like everybody. There are a few people who aren't. I specifically bring them on my show, and I often will laud the fact that they're not assholes because I want to shed a light on people who are actually good. But the vast majority of these people are complete assholes. They're clout chasers and self-promoters. And that flavor can come in a lot of different flavors. Some people do all of that doing pranks online. Some people do it in political sense because they know that there's an audience and they can get money. They can get people to give them Patreon or like their tweets or whatever. But it is a dirty, corrupt system. And the corruption is not confined to the politics. There's all these things that feed on the politics. And that's corrupt too. And I hate it. And I hate it more every day, honestly. Okay, Coffee is for Closers says, the right-wing channels never mention that Giuliani and co. present no evidence in court. It's a great point. No, they'll keep, but they have a trick for that. So they'll keep saying, we have a person. We have a truck driver. We have a person who's in the building. They're testifying. The truck driver is saying something. What? What are they saying? What can they prove? Nothing. And are you going to talk about that person tomorrow? No, you're going to move on. You're going to have somebody else tomorrow. It's like the QAnon thing tomorrow. They have people. They don't have anything But they have a new name, a new face, a new shadowy figure for Laura Ingraham to talk to, and then they move on to something else. It's always changing. So they're always wrong, but like fleetingly. It's ephemeral. Anyway, Raijin says, did you see my Star Trek meme about you on Twitter? Ensign Idarola damage report. No, I didn't. Could you tweet that at me again, actually? Thank you. Okay, so that's the way Trump theoretically is an asshole, even though I sort of talked myself more into it being about Ron Johnson being an asshole. So maybe we'll have, him win in the end. Daniel O'Connell, thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. The support for the network is really important. Thank you. As much as I don't want to do this, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it for TYT, and TYT obviously is still going through hard times like pretty much all of the media is. So everyone who has supported us through this very difficult year, a year that has been difficult not just for us, but obviously for every single one of you as well, I could not appreciate it more. And Nick Wash, thank you. The audience has been absolutely awesome this year. Now, what about Mitch McConnell? And honestly, we only have a few more minutes, but this is the most important part of this, because Donald Trump's temper tantrum is dangerous. I'm not one of those people on Twitter that's like, well, if he doesn't succeed in overthrowing democracy, it doesn't matter that he tried. I think that's fucking insane. But I don't think that it's going to succeed. So I can be a little bit of a distance at it. It's funny. So I'm going to talk about it pretty much every day because it's fucking hilarious and I need to laugh and I imagine you do too. But who's the bigger substantive asshole right now? I don't think it's Trump. I don't even think it's Ron Johnson. He's a weenie. The weenie can't be the biggest asshole because they don't have the boldness, the bold flavor of the weenie. Mitch McConnell, I think, is going to win. So let's talk about why. So Mitch McConnell obviously spent pretty much this entire year doing jack shit during the worst domestic crisis that America has known for our entire lives, and going back even decades before that. Hold on one second. I think I missed 2 super chats. I fucking hate missing super chats. Farsight says AOC for NR 47. Nick Wash, thank you again. I hope that she runs. I really hope so. Caffeine Dragon says, sitting at the auto shop and an elderly massless woman just told me the governor is spreading COVID via chemtrails. Misinformation is scary. Well, isn't it amazing that, like, no matter what the new thing is, they can always weave it into the existing canon? Like, why shouldn't it be chemtrails? They already believe the chemtrails are doing something. What are they doing? Whatever new thing. Did you know that chemtrails are 75% mail-in ballots? And then the mail-in ballots just trickle down during big dumps of chemtrail. I should write conspiracy theories. Adrian Harrington says, John, you are a gem among humans. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Mama Bear says, in Georgia, my whole family requested ballots and will vote blue in runoff. Trump is so terrible, GA is turning blue, hilarious. That would be great, Mama Bear. That would be like the best result we could hope for. Okay, so he spent the year basically stopping any sort of substantive aid. Very early on, when everyone was maximally afraid and Fox and the Republicans hadn't yet really unified against stopping people from needlessly dying from this virus, they were able to put through a little bit of aid that did a couple of good things, admittedly. There was the stimulus checks once, and the unemployment aid, which I'm sure many of you probably have either needed or know someone that needed. I have people I love in this world that really did need that aid. And that was pretty much it. And then a bunch of money for corporations. What did they do with that money? I don't know. Do you? We may never know. And then that was pretty much it. And then month after month went by, and 1,000 to 2,000 Americans would die every single day, week after 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 week, and he would do jack shit. And it was mainly because of a combination of 2 things. 1, he doesn't give a fuck. Honestly doesn't care if you live or die. And 2, what he does care about is remaining in office. To remain in office, he needs to win his election. And he looked out there at his state and thought, will not caring if my people live or die hurt me? And he made the decision, he identified that no, it would not hurt him. And the joke was on us because it didn't. It didn't hurt him. Like, he could just tell people to go fuck themselves and let their grandma die, and he could still get elected. Which is sort of fucked up about him, but really it's more fucked up about us. That we're the sort of people that will allow that. I mean, I don't live in Kentucky or whatever, but I imagine that the people there are probably not that dissimilar from Americans throughout the country. And they'll allow that sort of shit. Okay, hold on one sec. There was a super chat. Christina Estrada says, Trump in lame duck is asking for 1 woman, 4 black men to be sentenced, also trying to change the way they die. Please look in the story going unnoticed. Thank you. Well, so yes, we did talk about the changing, their push for, bringing back both firing squad and electrocution. But thank you for bringing up those particular cases. Okay, so what is he doing now? Well, now we're past the election. And honestly, I don't believe Mitch McConnell gives a damn about any sort of aid now, because he still doesn't care if you live or die. He doesn't need to get elected again. And the aid would mostly help America under Biden, and he wants Biden to do poorly. And if that means that more people have to suffer, more people have to die, again, refer to the previous comments. And so he does have a plan, though. And this is going to have to be the last thing that we talk about here, because I am going really late. It's a targeted relief proposal, heavily geared towards providing corporations with immunity from coronavirus-related losses. Oh, thank God. Fucking thank God. Thank God. We have been waiting months with people losing their jobs and dying, just hoping that corporations would be protected from COVID-related liability lawsuits. They reelected him. This isn't new, by the way. We knew that that was his only priority back when we were voting to elect him or not. So again, the joke is really on us. The offer includes a liability shield that Public Citizens Remington Gregg described as breathtakingly broad. It also provides a 100% tax deduction for business meals, which is great in a time where people are going hungry and don't have jobs. Meanwhile, his proposed relief measures does not include a boost to federal unemployment insurance, instead calling for an extension of existing programs for 1 month. Well, that's good, because in a month, we'll have gotten past this whole pandemic thing. No one will be dying in late December. Also, stricter requirements for applicants in the name of preventing fraud. Do you guys get, though, I know this isn't really new, but it's really being applied to more and more things. When Republicans talk about fraud, it is physically impossible, via the physical laws of the universe, for them to not be fucking lying to you. There's no actual fraud that they have a problem with. Okay? They're frauds, and they talk a lot about bullshit fraud that doesn't exist. When they say the word fraud, it can't mean what they're saying it means. The only thing it can mean is stop black people from voting and don't spend money on the poors. That's all it means, ever. Maybe there's a little bit more, but that's what I can come up with right now. No round of direct stimulus payments. Why would you need it? You haven't had a job in 6 months. You've had lots of time to make money. And no aid to cash-strapped state and local governments. State and local governments, by the way, that are right now dealing with the fact that more and more hospitals are getting filled up, and within a few weeks are going to be over capacity. They're going to desperately need that money just to deal with the current mini spike that we're in. I call it a mini spike because it's still in the first spike. We never actually got out of the first spike. This is a spike inside of a spike. It's spikeception. But then also, just dealing with that. But then, now we're starting to get the vaccine. It is going to cost a lot of money to actually distribute that. But they don't have money. But fuck them. This title is really demonstrating the law of titles on YouTube. If it's a question in the title, it isn't actually a question. No, Mitch McConnell's the biggest fucking asshole. Seriously, does anyone disagree? I mean, the vote, before I even presented the stories, people were saying that McConnell is the bigger asshole. Trump's terrible. Trump's the worst. But Mitch McConnell is human garbage. I have grown to be less interested in the comparisons of him to a turtle, because I have great experiences with turtles in my life. There was a period growing up in 3rd grade where I would come home and my mom would put the first Ninja Turtles movie on every single day. I was one of those kids. We didn't have Frozen. We had Ninja Turtles. And I had turtles. I had pet turtles growing up. And in grad school at UT Austin, there's a little pond that has turtles. All great turtle experiences. Mitch McConnell's an asshole. He's not a turtle. Yes, he looks reptilian, but he's just an asshole. Ugh. Daniel O'Connell says, you should get this real Bill Burr, no filter more on the show. Well, I can't swear on the show, unfortunately, because we do broadcast on linear platforms, but I appreciate you enjoying the pre-show, and I intend to keep it going. Thank you to everybody who's been here for the pre-show, everybody who commented, everybody who took part in our little surveys, liked the stream, shared the stream, did super chats. I really do appreciate that. We do have a big show. By the way, if you enjoyed this, how would you like an hour of this, which is going to be coming up very soon on this actual YouTube channel, as well as Twitch at twitch.tv/TYT. Jared Jackson is going to be joining me. We got a lot of great stories. AOC is feuding with an awful Democrat. We've got stuff on election fraud. We got all sorts of stuff. You're not going to want to miss it. Oh, and by the way, between now and then, generally that's the time that I make a little bit of toast, get a little bit of caffeine. You can do the same. But also, did you know, Damage Report shirts now in long sleeve. It is getting cold. We also have hoodies, and we now have a Dragon Squad Christmas sweater, which my wife and I have both been wearing and having a lot of fun with that. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining me now. We're going to be back in just a little bit, less than 20 minutes. I got to go do my final prep, but I'll see you soon.